Hello everybody, welcome to the second Haven playlist video. Today we're going to talk about understanding long C, how to deny info long C, how to play against different kind of buys based on the economy, generally just how to become pretty effective at dealing with C on Haven, pretty much on offense. So let's get started. Most of the time you'll find setups pretty similar to the one that I've laid out right here, right? So you'll have either a Cypher playing on the C site with a Rotator playing inside Garage or inside the Link, or they might even play inside the Garage itself. Most of the time there is at least one player you keep an eye on B. Usually it's either like the Jets or the Omens who can get on top of the bomb site. And of course if the Cypher is usually C, that means that two people are most likely playing A. Typically at a high level, it's usually Omen, Sova, but of course this can be moved around. But generally speaking, this is kind of like the layout depending on how Cypher is based on the map. Of course, sometimes it's reverse where you have, multiple people playing this way. You have kind of like maybe setup that looks like this, but either way, the fundamentals remain the same. So dealing with long C is to pull rotates in, right? We talked about this last week on the A site where it pulls in the rotators into the bomb site. For this one, it's really not that different. So denying info long C can really only be done in a very finite amount of ways compared to long A, which we've already covered before. For long C specifically, there are the Omen smokes that you can throw top C, right? And then there are the Brimstone smokes as well. Bada boom, right here, the Sky smokes, they come raining in. So those are kind of like the main ways that people will deny information. And denying information is pretty effective, generally speaking, because it forces these players to be afraid of kind of like any pop that might happen through the smoke, right? And if there's only one person here, typically that favors the attack side, which they might have 3 people or 4 people or even all 5 people coming through the smoke. So having that pop pressure is pretty important in keeping players committed to this part of the map, right? So you want as many people coming into this part of the map as possible when you're denying information towards C. Now, what this means for you is that while you're denying information along C, opens up either B, or this opens up like either a B to A split, right, with 2 smokes here and here. This really flushes the map out favorably if you're intending on hitting A, or if you're intending on hitting B with A-link control afterwards. So typically anything to do with like long C information denial will pretty much open up these parts of the map for you. So if you're not having success in dealing with these parts of the map, consider how am I dealing with denying information long C? How am I keeping up the pressure when it comes to C in general? And we're going to be covering some of these ways now, right? So typically speaking, like I said, there are only a few ways to deny information. But I think beyond that, you generally want to have pop pressure, right? Like you want your enemy team to be kind of afraid of, is the attack side gonna pop through these smokes, right? As soon as you establish this fear in their minds, that's typically when you have the advantage of like, okay, now they're gonna respect the smoke, now they're gonna go off this smoke, right? And you'll see this a lot at the pro play where like the C pop pressure is very real. So every time that smoke happens on top C, people are generally pretty intimidated by it and they will seriously respect it. So again, smokes are usually a really good way. The other really good way is, of course, will be based on economy. Okay, I'm going to explain this as clearly as possible. I've decided to use this website, by the way, instead of in-game. I just feel like this is a little easier and a little quicker for myself to reduce workload and hopefully still get my point across. So let's start with pistol round. Typically on pistol rounds, there are no ops in play. There are no one-shot weapons in play except the ghost headshots. So what I like to do personally on pistol rounds is I like to send like 2 or 3 people that will swing long C like almost immediately, right? It could be your Jet, your Omen, it doesn't really matter. Preferably people that have bought ghosts, and you just swing it, right? You just literally swing it. And you're just looking for the fights. If anyone's peeking, you're going to do some free damage. They could be either back behind default, they could be back here, they could be not peeking you at all. If they're not peeking you at all, then it's like, okay, they're not peeking, which means that they have no way to gather information, which means that if you walk up, they don't really have a heads up on it. So like one of my favorite pistols in Pugs especially is triple peek out long C, have Cypher come this way, maybe drop a camera over here, just so you can spot both sewers, kind of like the sewer walk up as well as the long A peak. And if no one's peeking, they're not getting any information. If they are peeking, then you can just deny information by caging the cross, keeping them engaged. And usually what another really cool thing to do is have your Sova either arrow above B right here, or toss an arrow over here as well. Like anywhere really in middle where you'll know if they're walk pushing on you or anything like that. And if the 3 people long C, if these guys right here don't spot anybody peeking, they can just instantly call for the rotates, right? And then you guys could just hit C, 5e2, 5e3 maximum. Most of the time though, you'll notice that if you don't get spotted early, you're gonna get like a 5 versus 2 on the bomb site, sometimes even a 5 versus 1, which is obviously very favorable for you. So that's one way how I like to deal with it. There is like an alternative though, where you maybe when you are swinging, you do get spotted, right? And this is where, okay, you get spotted. As soon as you get spotted, this is the same thing as showing presence, right? Which means that when you get spotted, these players, if this Phoenix is garage, for example, right, and the Sova is like playing Link, or maybe he's playing in garage window with the Phoenix, or maybe he's just playing B with it, any of these variations, these guys right here will, if once they spot 3 of you, will have to rotate into C to help. And this opens up the map for you. So if you get spotted really early and you don't get anything out of it, then consider like falling back to the Cypher or coming back to the Sova, and you can either hit B or even split A through B, or just everyone literally just regroup back here and attack the A bomb site with off of Cypher's control. Boom. Easy, right? So now we go into the other options. So when you're against ecos, so if you have weapons and they're on pistols, maybe you want the pistol round, maybe you just want a gun round, right, where they don't have a lot of money to spend. One thing that you should definitely be doing is spotting the C push. So a common thing that people will do is they'll have like 3 people walk pushing on you with pistols. So when this happens, you don't really want to wide swing raw. Like if you are gonna wide swing with 3 people, just make sure you have either like a Phoenix flash or breaches. Obviously breaches concuss is a really good option. You can just have like breach over here. Let's say you don't have Phoenix, right? Get away, Phoenix. So let's say you have breach, right? The concuss here, the stun for the entire lane is really strong. Jump up here, stun this, 2 people peek out. So pretty much the gist is, if you're on an anti-eco, if you have weapons and they only have pistols, you want to clear the triple push, right? You want to clear it safely, not just raw. You don't want to take the 50-50 against the ecos. So when you're against a low buy or an eco buy, just use your utility, either flashes or the stun, or the Sova drone is a really good one too. I love personally the Sova drone or the Sova arrow here. So you're either using the Sova arrow off the wall right here that will detect anyone pushing up instantly, which can be thrown from here as soon as the barrier goes down. You can also just like jump right here, toss your drone out, clear it, right? And then have your teammates like over here covering you, and then you can spot what's happening on the map. If you spot 3 people here, then you can decide to either fight it, which obviously like fighting is sometimes a little rough if you don't have the proper utility for it. Sometimes it's pretty favorable. You just take the fight then and there. The round is pretty much secured. I mean, the other option is that if you spot it really, really early, then you know that there's only 1 person B, 1 person A, or maybe 2 people A and 0 people here. Any variation of these combinations. So like falling back and either hitting B, or falling back and hitting A while they have like really long rotates is pretty effective also. Moving on to gun round, but you know they don't have ops, right? Now this changes the dynamic a little bit. This can be treated pretty much similarly to, let's say Omen's anchoring. They got Phoenix playing in garage. They have Sova lingering in Link, using arrows, gathering information. They have their Jet playing here somewhere, either top B with a rifle or like playing Links. And they have Cypher soloing A, right? This is a pretty common setup, or any variation of like this, or like that. You'll see a lot of these like pretty common spread on the map on the defense side. So if you are on a gun round where you know there are no ops in play, you can treat it almost the same as a pistol round, right? So if you are on offense and you're like, all right, we know they don't have ops. We don't really want to deny info with smokes which we've already talked about, but we want to deny info in a different way by contesting it, right? Contesting it is almost as effective as using a smoke, right? Because so if I'm peeking right here with 3 people and I see that no one is peeking, right? This Phoenix is playing logs, this Omen is either hiding backside or hiding back here behind plat. If no one is peeking, then you know that they're not getting any information out of C. So walking up is another pretty good option. Again, you can walk up, you can just call for the rotates to come in, then all of you move up together. As soon as you're close, you can throw a smoke here, Omen flash right here from here, and then boom, you pretty much have the entire bomb site, right? Breach is another pretty strong. Obviously, Breach is kind of like overtuned right now, where if you have Breach right here, you can flash right here, then have another flash coming in through the default box, and you can just chain the default box with like 2 flashes while like everybody on the team is running up, right? So when you're on a gun round versus gun round and they don't have ops, swinging long C isn't a bad play. It's pretty good. You don't have to commit to the C bomb site specifically or necessarily, right? But just like swinging it, taking the duels with the rifles, like if they're facing you, I mean, the 50-50 is still pretty favorable for you on the offense, right? Like you're not having to make any elaborate strategies. You're not having to make any sort of like crazy decision making. Like you're just swinging out. You're either losing a player, or you're trading, or you're just killing a player for free, right? Most of the time what happens if you're swinging with rifles against rifles is you go 1 for 1, or you get the insta kill and they don't get anything back. Boom, now you can decide, okay, are we hitting C? Are we going back to A? Are we just gonna go quiet then re-hit C once they refresh their numbers, right? You kind of have like some decisions to make at that point, but not very complex decisions. So typically what I like to do is when I know there's no ops is I like to challenge long C, and really just, if they're not peeking, now we decide, okay, they're not gathering information from A. So as long as we're doing our job, denying info long A. By the way, if you haven't seen my video on denying info long A, you can watch the last video I made on the Haven playlist. It goes pretty in depth in terms of like how to deny information, what that does for you, right? Either whether you're caging here or caging here. So if you have your cipher over here and they're like, and he says, dude, no one is peeking long, they're not getting any info A, they're not getting info C. So really the only maybe info they're gathering is middle, but that doesn't really give them the full picture, right? If they don't have mid plus an extremity, either C or A. So again, peeking long C, not a bad decision to make when you know they don't have ops. Once the enemy team starts having ops, right? Like once the jet starts coming here and the Omen, maybe Omen's opping, maybe Jet's opping, I don't know. But like once you have like the opper starting to play like pretty heavily towards C, swinging becomes a little bit different, right? It becomes a lot riskier. You're risking getting shot by the op and the jet dashing away. Now you're not really getting as much for it. So once you know the enemy team has ops, the long C swing isn't really as effective anymore. So this is where you need to start doing the smokes, right? This is where you really need to start smoking it up. So you smoke off top C, whether it's with Omen, whether it's with Brimstone. Really, those are the main controllers that are being played right now. Viper is starting to gain a little bit of traction, but for now we're only going to talk about Brimstone and Omen. So you can get the Omen smoke going, and boom, information denied. The opera can't get anything. If you place your Omen smoke pretty well, like not quite in the middle, but slightly to the top and to the right, so like right here. Oh, wait, right here. It doesn't let the jets that are going on top of the boxes get any information, as long as you don't put it too far to the left and leave a gap right here. So usually if you do it just in the middle but slightly leaning to the right, that'll deny the information. Again, this is a lot of pressure for an op, right? Because they can't just linger up here the entire time, because there is a chance that you guys are creeping behind it and popping. And typically if there is an op consistently on the C site, popping through the smoke is a pretty effective strategy, as long as you have, you know, your smoke here, your another smoke right here. Boom. Put that with either a Phoenix flash coming through the smoke, right? If you don't have breach, Phoenix, Omen, there you go. Boom. You walk into the smoke, you flash, jet dashes, now you're in the ops phase. It's a lot harder for them. This is why I like to have like the pop pressure, and then once you have the pop pressure, you can start to use the smokes just for information denial, just to create pressure to open up the rest of the map for you. And that's it. That's the entire topic of today. How to handle long C. Again, we talked about pistols, just swinging it, fighting it early. If no one's speaking, you can make a decision. Okay, they're not gathering information. Yeah, we talked about what to do against an eco, right? When you're against an eco, you want to make sure that you're making sure the enemy team isn't 3-man or 4-man walking down long C. You can do that by either using Sova's utility, flashes, stuns by breach, just any real way, as long as you're working with the team to flash it, clear it, fight it advantageously. We talked about how to play long C when you're on a gun round and the enemy team is also on a gun round, but there are no ops in play. And then we talked about what to do against ops and how to create that pop pressure, right? And how to create that respect for your smoke so that you can flush the map out better for yourself and really control the map and control the flow of the round. And that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Is straight to the point. Hopefully it's not too much information. And if you're wondering what this website is, I will have the link for you in the description down below. Thank you all for coming in, and keep your eyes out for the next video.